of that moderation stuff. Not today. So, it's finally time to do a live, which, hey, I'm doing an unscheduled live without telling anybody. So let's see if anyone shows up. But today I kind of wanted to get onto the topic of germination because I just got a bunch of sprouts established and I actually have plants popping out of the soil, which is super exciting in our grow closet using a clone dome to keep that humidity up. And so far, so good. I've been able to keep the temperature up. I've been able to keep the humidity where it needs to be. I've got the watering schedule figured out for these plants. I think I'm doing pretty good. Now, we just had White Widow, Purple Ferrari, and a couple other cultivars join the garden. And if you guys actually want to keep updated on that kind of stuff, you can go on my Twitter account, or X, otherwise known as Twitter, however you know the site. But yeah, that's where I'll be posting most of my photos. I also post on Instagram, but not as often for some reason. But I do plan on giving that place more love. But germination, I would say, is one of the easiest parts of the gardening cycle because you can't drown a seed. The pH doesn't really matter, and it takes very little monitoring as long as you have the right kind of place to do it, which is in the dark, in a closet, most likely, or in a drawer. If you want to do the paper towel method, which is actually something I had to resort to, this round to actually get those seeds going where they needed to go. I had a couple seeds that didn't sprout. I had a White Widow. No, I had wedding cakes that didn't sprout, and then I had my purple gelato die, unfortunately, which kind of sucks, but you know, plant more seeds and you move on. That's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear it. I hope everything goes well with that plant because once you get into the actual seedling stage, that is when things really start to become tricky because they're super delicate at that stage and it's really easy to overwater a seedling. If you've never done it before, it can be really easy to give those plants too much love. So really monitor your watering coming right out the gate into the seedling stage, into the early veg stage, I would say. And after that, things get a lot easier. Once you get an established root system in a quickly growing vegetative plant and then into the flowering stage, they can normally handle irregular watering schedules a little bit better and not get as stressed or have as much of a risk of dying as long as you address that problem quickly and resolve the issue. But going into germination itself and the seed anatomy, I was actually doing some research to actually pick apart a seed and really get down to what the parts are. That's awesome, man. Is it the same cultivar that you have in flower? Week 6 is one of my favorite weeks. But you have the outer shell, which is one part of the seed, which is the part you see and hold on to and touch and look at when the seed is being ready to be planted. It's just the outside, which is going to absorb water and get it into the actual taproot and the root cap and soften things up so it can actually grow and poke through and then sprout eventually and naturally fall off once it breaks the soil. Here we go. The radicle or the radicle, however you want to pronounce it, the first part of the seed to emerge from the seed during germination. This is otherwise known as the taproot. This is what we call it. It's what's in the thumbnail. Different culture, tarantula genetics. Winter weather advisory. Is it outdoor then? Because otherwise that wouldn't really be relevant unless you're also worried about your electricity going out, which would suck. But here in late November, almost December, we already are well into our cure over here in Michigan. So I don't know unless you're like closer to the equator, like maybe Texas still has plants up. And then the primary leaves are the round leaves that come up and break through the soil. They start the process of the photosynthesis, and they really start your plant going on absorbing the light energy. and that's when you would start slowing down your actual watering period or watering cycle and letting it dry out a little bit more. And right now I'm growing in organic soil, so I have organic medium, and I need to keep the soil a little bit moister than I would if I was growing in peat moss. It's in here in Virginia. Very interesting. I don't know a whole lot about growing in Virginia, but I know it's warmer down there, so you probably should be good with keeping your plants out a little bit longer. But going with this round of germination, I had a lot of trouble actually because I was trying to germinate seeds. I didn't have the right environment when I first started to grow, but both the seeds popped, which is very cool. But they both died. So that wasn't too great, but it was too cold and it was too dry. Definitely not the environment you want your plants to be in. But in this growing closet, which I actually might show you on the live, in this growing closet right now, we have plenty of plants that are growing and doing some really great things. And there's one, the first cherry cookies I planted, that is a little bit further along than everyone else, getting a little bit of a head start. But hopefully that doesn't put it at too much of an advantage when it comes to the veg stage and getting taller than everyone else. And hopefully it's a short cultivar, because I'm really going to need to focus on keeping that canopy low and then filling out the surface area of that closet and getting as much out of it as I possibly can, and then hopefully getting a large yield out of it, because we're starting to run out right now, and I know this stuff is not going to last an entire grow cycle. My outdoor plants, if you guys joined the Croptober vlogs that I did almost every single day of October, we did not get a super huge yield out of those tiny plants, which isn't surprising, but hopefully this year and the years to come, we will get to a point where we never run out of weed, because that's kind of a sucky thing, and I don't like buying it personally. But I think I really ran out of things to talk about, but it is super important to find a method of germination that works for you, whether you're growing in the pods, you're putting your seeds directly in the soil, whatever method you are choosing to do. Choose an easier method like the paper towel method. If you're having trouble with the planting it in the soil and so on, just kind of back off and do the more complicated things. One other thing I could have done if I got a little bit more desperate is soaking my plants, or soaking my seeds in a shot glass full of water, and soaking them for 24 hours or until they sank. That would have gave me an extra step to make extra sure that those plants are getting their best chance of germinating. And if the paper towel method didn't work, I probably would have used my last seeds to do that. 24-hour soak and then directly into soil. Yep, someone recommended that to me too, but fortunately the paper towel method, it did pull through, and it got me some really strong sprouts. And actually within 3 days, the White Widow seeds were completely out of their outer shell before actually planting them. So without further ado, I think we're going to take the camera, we're going to go over to the grow closet, and we're going to take a look at how things are going in there before the lights turn off. Can I flip the camera? There we go. So we got our SF2000 up here. We got our space heater, some extra soil, and then we have our fan and an extra water bottle. But the exciting stuff is under this clone dome. So I'm going to take this lid off and set it to the side, if I can, with one hand. There we go. So starting from this side and going over, we have a Cherry Cookies 2, which is sprouted. We have Purple Ferrari, which is also sprouted. All of these are sprouted, spoilers. So I'm not going to say that every time. We got Cookies and Cream, a White Widow. I believe this is the White Widow 1, and then we have another White Widow over here. Yep, White Widow 2. And then White Widow
I put one on this one. I guess I'm going to label this one number 3. I didn't realize I had 3 of them because, you know, I got stoner brain. Mine took 2 days as well. I used. Nice. But yeah, I guess I'm going to have to put a number on this one, which isn't a super big deal. And then the furthest one along is the cherry cookies. One back here, looking very strong. Very happy about how that one turned out so far. And we've been keeping the humidity up. Right now it's at 78, but I have the lid off, so it's going to drop a little bit. It's already at 72, but the temperature is 80. It gets up to 85. I've seen it dip into the high 70s, but that's right about the range we're going to need to be. Just keep these girls warm and happy, and everything should turn out well. Keeping the soil moist is going to be pretty important. We got to reactivate those nutrients because, especially with the newer plants, the nutrients are going to be dormant. And seeds actually have a little bit of energy to give to the roots when they first start out, to give them a good, strong fed start, get them happy and get them going. And after a couple of days to a week or so, the nutrients should start to come back, get kicked on, the microbes are going to start going again, and start feeding that root system as needed, which is very important. And then every single time you transplant or add soil on top, which is why I left a little bit of room, so we can add soil on top, give them a little bit of feeding before they're going to go into their first transplant, most likely, and then those are going to be the points where it's technically a feeding or a reamendment in adding soil in transplants, which is again why it can be important to transplant often, but not too often. I'm probably going to get a good 5 transplants in this run probably, so I'd probably go from solo cup to the 1 gallon to a 3 gallon. I think I'm going to have to end in a 5 gallon just because of the room. Because the size of the room isn't super big, so I'm not sure how big the pots can get, especially with the equipment we have in here. But maybe I can get that moved around and worked out a little bit better. But this is the setup we have for now. If I have to lose a white widow, I maybe will have to, just to make the room so I can get a higher yield. But that's pretty much the garden. That's pretty much the setup. I'm going to get this lid back on here, hopefully without making anyone upset. And for those of you who are going to be asking, I got these vents open like this. This one is completely closed, and then I got a little crack in here just to have a little bit of ventilation, just so I'm not completely holding in all of the air in there, because I do want some oxygen carbon dioxide exchange. I'm growing in my house, so that's going to make the levels a little bit higher because I got my dog exhaling in here. We have sugar gliders exhaling in the next room. We got me, my fiance, and my baby all exhaling carbon dioxide, which is going to make these girls a little bit happier with their levels. I do intend on getting a measuring thing to measure how much carbon dioxide parts per million are in here. At some point, that probably will be in the late veg, something I can invest in. And that'll be about it. But that's pretty much the setup. That's what we're working with. All the cultivars and the closet and blah, blah, blah. Jesus, that fucking spooked the shit out of me with the air shifting and closing the door. Freak a stoner out, that kind of shit. My paranoia lately, I don't know if it's because of the weed or just life in general is fucking with me, but I do have really high paranoia as of late. But, you know, life happens and anxiety happens, but all that shit. Anyway, completely losing track of where I'm supposed to be at. So there was one thing people wanted to talk about for the live, but I can't remember what it is. So we're probably just going to take a random topic from my notebook, or if there's something you guys want to talk about, let me know in that chat, because I am paying attention to that. So I've got harvesting and drying and probably veg training I could talk about extensively. I do want to do my first trellis net run in there, which I think is going to bring stuff up to a whole new level. Because I did do a bamboo stick tie up with my pink tsunami on my last run that I actually lost to spider mites. Fuck spider mites, by the way. Uh, lost one of my favorite weed plants I've ever grown to spider mites. Ain't that some shit? But I think in that same round we got that wedding cake that I really love so much. So it, we got some good things out of it, and it wasn't all completely tragic. But my point is that those buds were so much more swelled up than the mother plant, which I just kind of grew straight up. I think they were like 6 times the size of the buds, and they smelled a lot better, and they seemed just a lot more healthy and a lot more frosty. So I think with the trellis net and a little bit more lollipopping than I normally do, we can really make something beautiful happen with those plants in that closet. And with the amount of stuff I have, like the variety, I'm very excited to see how different the White Widows turn out, even though they're from the same seed bank, from the same breeders, and how different everything is to each other, because there are a few cultivars in there that I've grown before, and then there are also a few that I've never grown before. So it's going to be really exciting to see how different those cultivars are from each other, and how they affect me and my friends and my family differently, and how yeah, just see how different they grow and whatnot, and see what we get. But yeah, I think I rambled on enough. I don't want to completely bore you guys and ruin your day, but I will see you guys next time. If you have anything you guys want to hear me talk about in these live streams, please leave them in the comment sections below, and I will see you guys next time. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.